Where do East Tennesseans go to the beach? Well, I've done a study. Actually, I just did a poll on Facebook. So we're going to talk about that. And then I'm also going to show you one of the things about going to the beach is if you go to the east, to like North Carolina, South Carolina, we say you have to drive through the mountains. So obviously, anytime you're going, whether or not you're going to the beach or you're going North Carolina, South Carolina, you got to drive through the mountains. So we just went to Charleston for a little beach vacation, and I did some videoing of what it's like to drive through the mountains in actually sun and rain. So I'm going to show you that too, so you can know what we're talking about when we say we have to drive through the mountains. So that being said, first of all, we're going to jump into the map and take a look at some of the major responses, most popular places that people named. And I'm going to give you some insights about those. And like, so if you're thinking like it's too far from the beach for me to move to Knoxville, well, or maybe you're Knoxville local and you just moved here and you're like, wait, where do we go to the beach? Okay, let's dive into the map and let's find out. All right, so first of all, here is Knoxville. This is downtown. These are some markers that I put on the map, so just disregard those. So let's look at the big picture. Here's Knoxville. You're noticing that, first of all, we are not on any sort of ocean, which there's somebody on Facebook talking about there's hurricanes in Knoxville. There are no hurricanes in Tennessee because Tennessee's not on the ocean. Okay. Now, sometimes we get rain from hurricanes, like, you know, the end of the tail end of a hurricane or whatever, but we don't have actual like hurricanes here. So I want to point that out. Now, what you're noticing is here's Knoxville. These yellow lines are major interstates. So Knoxville has I-40, 81, and 75 all going through it, which 75 is the one that goes down to Atlanta. You have 40, that's the one that crosses east to west. 81 goes, actually this is 81, I think goes north. This is 75 going up. And then it comes back down, or this might be 85. Anyways, lots of interstates. And then Chattanooga, you can get to Birmingham. I think that's 25. Anyways, so just want to point out that like driving is easy in the sense that like Knoxville is kind of a hub for a bunch of interstates. So that's kind of good. Kind of a great thing. But I also want to point out to you that you're seeing, okay, like obviously these are North Carolina and South Carolina beaches, Savannah, then you've got all of Florida, and then you've got the Gulf. So the like big takeaways and big places that people said they like to go, which I forgot to pull that. Hold on 1 second. Let me pull that up. So this is the compilation of my data collection, my Facebook poll. What you are seeing is these are grouped by state. Florida, South Carolina. South Carolina, notice, has the most. Like this is all South Carolina, all of this stuff, which I should have probably put that first. And I started about color coding them, but then I didn't want you to think they were all the same, so I didn't color code them. So what this is showing is the beach itself. So this is like every person's response. This is the state that it's in. This is the time if you drive from Knoxville. Now I Google mapped this on July 4th around 5 p.m. Okay. So, cause I thought, well, maybe I should add this. So I added this to the chart. And then I also added whether or not there is a direct flight. And again, this is as of July 4th, 2023. If you go to the McGee Tyson website, it will tell you where nonstop flights are. So just want to point that out as well. Notice that like there's some stars here. This is saying these are seasonal. And like, I would have sworn that there was a Myrtle Beach nonstop flight, but that is not showing up here. So anyways, but you can see here's obviously McGee Tyson, and this is showing nonstop flights. Now I'm a little bit worried. I didn't fact check this. I'm just thinking surely this is updated. Surely, right? Anyways, so just do your fact checking, but this at least gives you an idea that most of these places, a lot of people, almost everyone is driving to these because like otherwise you're taking a connecting flight. So what's the point? Now, some people will drive to Nashville, take a direct flight, and some people will drive to Atlanta to get a direct flight. If you're going to do those things in order to get a direct flight, Nashville's about 3, Atlanta 3.5, 4, depending on who's driving and then depending on what time you're going through Atlanta. Because here's the primary difference between if you fly out of Nashville, the airport is on this side of Nashville. So you don't have to actually drive through Nashville. It's west of Nashville downtown. Versus if you go and fly out of the Atlanta airport, the airport is past town. So you have to go through town to actually get to the airport. So I just want to point that out, that like that's kind of a negative in the sense that you have to drive all the way through town to get to the airport. So just to keep that in mind when you're thinking about like which way would we go. Also, Nashville seems like a quick trip to me, whereas Atlanta doesn't seem as quick. Although like I used to live in Atlanta and I thought, I don't know why it seems so much longer, because it's really not that much longer. So just a couple things to note. So as we're looking at these beaches, most of these you can fly, but you're going to have to take a connecting flight either through Charlotte or through like Charlotte is here, North Carolina. This is like an American Airlines hub, Delta, Atlanta. So just kind of keep that in mind too when we're looking at these. Okay, so we're going to talk about South Carolina beaches first, because those are the ones that most people talked about were the most popular. So South Carolina beaches, this includes, you probably heard of Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is South Carolina over here, and this is about 7-8 hour drive. I put on here like how long they each are. Myrtle Beach, the last hour is like, oh my God, you are all on like back roads and you're like, I'm never going to get there. How is this even going to happen? So Myrtle Beach is super popular. Myrtle Beach to me is very, very touristy. Now, we used to stay, like as a kid, we would stay in North Myrtle. So that's almost North Carolina. It's a little bit nicer, or like Surfside, Murrells Inlet, Pawleys Island. These are a little bit nicer in terms of like restaurants, stuff to do. But Myrtle Beach has the most like tourist options. So if you want like beach plus like 50, 11 million thousand things to do, Myrtle Beach has that. So, I mean, it's fine. It's a good beach. It's not my favorite. Like I grew up going there, or we grew up going to North Myrtle, North Myrtle, and it's just a little bit nicer. So, I mean, Myrtle Beach just seems pretty gimmicky. I think is like the word I'm looking for. It seems gimmicky. And it also reminds me of like going to Pigeon Forge, which we already have that here. So like, I don't want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not into it. So anyways, Myrtle Beach is on the list. Another South Carolina one that got a ton of hits was Isle of Palms. So Isle of Palms is, and Folly Beach, both Folly Beach, Isle of Palms are both just outside of Charleston. So that's kind of cool because you can go to Charleston and like visit that. But then you see all of this right here, this little section, that's Isle of Palms. Right there. And then you have Folly Beach over here, and Charleston is there. So about a 20-30 minute drive either way. This has quite a bit of traffic, very small, but you do have access to like a bigger town and cool things or whatever. Like if you're a Southern Charm fan, you're like, oh, I can see the places they go. So that's Isle of Palms and Folly Beach. Hilton Head is a little bit further down, again, South Carolina. So, there's Kiowa. So all of these, 7-8 hour drives, all of this. Okay, let me just also zoom out for a second. So you can see Myrtle Beach is a little bit further out. This is about a 7-8 hour drive. This is about 6 hours to Isle of Palms, Folly Beach. And then down here, if you go further south, you got Hilton Head, which is almost to Georgia. Savannah, Tybee Island, this is Georgia. So a lot of people go to Hilton Head. Hilton Head is known for like golf resorts, very like, I don't want to say, it's got more of a more bougie kind of Hilton Head. You know what I mean? Which actually, I've never been there. That's just like the people I know that have gone there. I'm like, they're fancy. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm not fancy enough for that. But look how many times people said it. Hilton Head, Hilton Head, Hilton Head, Hilton Head, exclamation point. Yes, ma'am. So, and actually this is saying 6 hours and 20 minutes. Again, this is from a Google map at a very specific time. So check your maps. Maybe like, Haley, this is not even correct. So yeah. Actually, the longest drive, which is funny now that I'm thinking about this, is to Myrtle Beach. because it's, the furthest east you're going to go. So anyways, that's South Carolina. South Carolina is a great option. The thing about South Carolina is that you do have to, in fact, drive through the mountains. So what am I talking about? And you'll hear that often. Like people say, oh, I had to drive through the mountains, which is heinous in the winter time. Or, high traffic when there's been a rock slide, like whatever. Now that doesn't happen often. I can remember that happening, actually one time coming back from the beach as a kid, there was a rock slide and it was like a 3-hour detour. It was horrible. Okay. So all of this extra green, all of this is all mountains. Now, so when we say you drive through the mountains, this is what we're talking about is you're taking Interstate 40 here. So you can see like this is heavily dense, like mountains, right? So from, maybe once you get like a mile from the state line of Tennessee to North Carolina, that's when there's like nowhere to stop. There's no gas stations. You've got to get kind of through the mountains, back out to the other side, maybe 20 or so minutes where you don't have an option to stop. So if you do have to drive through the mountains, just keep that in mind. But I made a video for you guys for when my husband and I just went to Charleston. So what we did is we drove 40. I don't know the exact interstates. I guess we went at 40 to 26 to this straight into Charleston. Or that's Charlotte. We didn't go through Charlotte. Hello. Okay, we did 40 to 26 to something to blah, blah, blah to Charleston. Whatever Google Maps said. But the point is, we did have to drive through the mountains. And so check out this video. This is us driving there and back from the mountains. We're driving to the beach. And this is what it looks like driving through the mountains. This is I-40. We are currently going east to North Carolina, South Carolina to the Carolinas. We drive through North Carolinas or South Tennessee. And you can see we are right in the mountains. This is the way.
This is the way
to the beach. Through the mountains outside of Asheville, but as you can see, there's road work going on, and I feel like this road work has been going on for at least since I wrestled. Look at welcome South Carolina. See the palm tree and the moon. Oh, Spartanburg. We are about to be in Tennessee. We are driving on 40, going westbound through the mountains. This is like an ideal driving through the mountain scenario. There's no rain. It's sun. Did you want to?
Hard to make that turn.
So this is a rest area, obviously. It's probably about, 5 miles in? It's decent. They have vending machines and toilets. Ooh, okay, so up here, we can go north. So we are approaching Knoxville. We are going to go westbound, but you can take 81 north.
You definitely can.
And if you go up to exit 8, that would be Morristown. Actually, exit 4 can take you to East Morristown, or exit 8 is like far side of Morristown. Now we are approaching the famous exit 407. 407 is like the exit you get off of the exit you get off at if you are going to Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Dollywood, Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, and it's also the home of the brand new Buc-ee's that opened last week. All right, so essentially, what did you think? That's kind of what it's like to drive from, basically, if you go anywhere east, you're going to be going through the mountains. Now, I think if you actually go far enough south, you will avoid that. So if you go to Savannah, you're going to drive. I think we actually went Chattanooga this way when we went to Savannah. We did not drive through the mountains because it would have been like way over and then down. But I think we actually went Chattanooga, Atlanta, to Savannah this way. So anyways, that's just a side note. If you go far enough south, like you go to Jacksonville, you're not going to go through the mountains and down. You're going to go Chattanooga, Atlanta, down. So if you go far enough south, you can avoid that, even if you are going east, but just making note of the fact that like, if you go to North Carolina, South Carolina beaches, you will be driving through the mountains. Now, if you go far enough north, you can actually avoid some of that treachery if you go through Kingsport and over. Like one time we had a wrestling event in Raleigh and we actually went north and over, and it wasn't like that much shorter. I had actually not gone that. It was more mileage to drive, but like you're not going through the windiness of the mountains. So anyways, that's just something to think about. If you're thinking like, I hate driving, then maybe you probably don't want to drive through the mountains. If you hate windy roads, you're not going to want to drive through the mountains. Instead, you're going to want to go to Florida beaches. So it's Florida. You can see like here's Tennessee state line here from here over, and then Florida is basically directly south, right? You see Destin, Panama City Beach, Gulf Shores, Pensacola. These are super popular beaches, and again, not that far. So if we look at Florida beaches now, notice people are saying 38, Destin. That's actually all the same, as well as Miramar Beach and Santa Rosa. That is all just around Destin, around Panama. 38 is the road. So you can see how 30. So when people say 38, they're talking about specifically this. And that's where you can see, if I zoom in far enough, you've got Seaside, which is actually where, oh my gosh, every time I do this, I forget the name of that guy. Jim Carrey. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Oh, The Truman Show. How it was like perfect and pristine and like beautiful. That's Seaside with all the like color, just like watercolor looking houses. Some people refer to it as watercolor. And I'm sure like there's a difference between Seaside and watercolor, but like it mushes all together. I've been there, it mushes together. But you can see how this is 30 here. Miramar, Sandestin, Seaside, Watersound, Rosemary, like all of these are just north of Panama City, but again, are super popular. And in terms of driving, you're looking at about 8 hours. Now, some of these would say like 740. One would say like 8 hours and 5 minutes or whatever. So I just put 8 hours. And that's for Destin. Also noticing that there is a direct flight into Destin from McGee Tyson through Allegiant. Now, I think that's only serviced through October of this year. So fact check that. That could change. Like it's showing here, it doesn't have the little asterisks on it. Okay, yeah. It's got for Frontier though. So actually Frontier, you could go. United, you could go. So that's cool. I didn't realize it. I was just thinking Allegiant. I always think Allegiant for direct flights. I don't think of Frontier or United for that matter. But anyways, that's not the point of this. Okay. So anyways, Florida, obviously those could be great options. Then someone else said, I don't know this one. Someone said Siesta Key, and that's further south. So that's further down the Gulf over past St. Petersburg, which there is a Allegiant flight into both St. Petersburg and Punta Gorda. And Siesta Key is like somewhere over here. So anyways, that would be, what's interesting though, it says it's 8 hours. I don't understand. Is that true? Let me just relook at this. Let's do Knoxville, Tennessee to Siesta Key directions. Siesta Key, Florida. It's just like weird because, oh yeah, so this is wrong. I need to fix that. I'm like, how is that? This is wrong. Let's fix this in real time. 10 hours, 30 minutes. Ugh, no, ma'am. I don't even want to go 8 hours, 6 hours. I mean, is like probably my limit. Anyways, whatever. I mean, I would ride down there if I had to. I'm just saying, ugh, that's a long time. 10 and a half hours. So obviously though, I mean, it's basically straight down. So that's what someone said. Siesta Key. I don't know much about that. I have been to Destin. It's beautiful. I've been to Panama City. Like, it's beautiful. I don't have actually anything bad to say about it. In Seaside, I stayed. It was super nice. Destin, we stayed for a bachelorette party. But that's when I lived in Atlanta. And I think that was like a 5-hour drive. So for Atlanta, it's perfect. So Florida is definitely an option, but obviously the closer up the Gulf you go, the less you're going to want it, the less you have to drive, obviously. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So the less you're going to have to drive if you stay, you know, like at the top of the Gulf. Some people go to Gulf Shores, which is Alabama, which I think someone did mention that. To me, when I think about Alabama in the summer, I'm thinking it's hot which literally makes zero sense because this is the same place. Like, it's all the same. You know what I mean? But for some reason, I'm just like, ugh, it's hot. Ugh. But it's all the same. Seriously. So I don't know why I think that. So obviously I'm wrong. Other places that people mention, Pawleys Island in South Carolina, Tybee Island in Georgia. That's just outside of Savannah. So again, you could likely avoid going through the mountains if you go here. I think we totally did not drive through the mountains, I felt. Even though it looks like we would have. But when we went to Savannah for Christmas and it was a lot of fun. But Tybee Island, I went actually when I was a teacher in Atlanta. We took a field trip to Tybee Island and we walked through the marshes. It was like a science trip. So I've just briefly been to Tybee Island. It seemed cool, but not as a vacation. But as a vacation, I know lots about South Carolina and then some stuff about Destin. I'm just not as familiar with Florida beaches as I am with like South Carolina beaches, North Carolina beaches, like Atlantic Ocean. Now I will say the people love these beaches, Destin, Panama City, all of this, because you've got white sand. It's very like beautiful beaches. You do have relatively wide beaches on the Atlantic side, but that's going to vary depending on specifically where you are. So when it comes to like the nicest sand, that's going to be in the Gulf. When it comes to like nice big wide beaches, Myrtle Beach, I mean, when the tide is down, you're talking like 100 yards. Is that true? Is it a football field? Yeah, probably. I mean, they're big when the tide is down, but the sand is not like white and whatever. It's a darker, color, which is fine. It just, I have a friend who was like, they took their kids to, I think, further down the Gulf and the sand was not as nice. And they were like, oh, what is this? So I just think that's funny because they had been used to going to like Seaside and Destin where like everything is just pretty looking. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful. Obviously, let me know your thoughts. I'm sure that I've left out beaches. This was like a 3-day poll I did on Facebook. And these are the responses that I gathered from just those 3 days of asking people. So anyways, I will say that what is a positive is like, yeah, we are not so super close to the beach, but we're within a 6-hour drive to some beach somewhere. So that's a positive. Now, obviously, if you wanted to fly like direct to places, we don't have much options for that. There is like a couple other Florida places. St. Pete, Punta Gorda, Orlando, which is not on the beach. Like that's central. So that's not going to really help. But Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, all these, would be direct flights to the beach as well. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope you're like, if you were like, it's too far from the beach, you know what? We're closer to the beach than Nashville is. Well, at least we're closer to North and South Carolina beaches than Nashville is. So, just saying that, we got that going for us. So anyways, that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your ideas. If I have majorly messed up, oh my gosh, words are hard for me today. If I have completely left off a very important beach within proximity to Knoxville that you want to tell people about, then please make a comment in the notes or make a comment. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you. If I have left off one of your favorite beaches, please let me know about it in the comments. I would love to hear where you go to the beach if you are local to East Tennessee. And I also wonder, do you fly or do you drive? Like as kids, we would have never, like flying would never be an option. We would always drive. And even now, like you're not going to you're not going to fly to like Charleston as an example, because by the time you connect to a flight, like it's the same thing. So you just feel more busy, but it's literally the same amount of time. You know what I mean? So anyways, I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you on the next video.